Kakadosh Boker Or. We're continuing business halacha. We're on page 15, where we were by the Mordechai. If you remember, we learned Avi Asaf. What did Avi Asaf say? Avi Asaf just said that if you've got a mavui, right, which is basically going to be a closed dead end street because it's going to be covered on three corners, right, and it's going to be open only in one corner, and all of a sudden, what happens is somebody comes and he opens up a competition at the beginning of the street. So now the other store was at the end of the street, and now you open up at the entrance of the street. So obviously, whoever's going to go in first goes to the first store, and they don't even bother going to the third store. So says Rav Yasaf, we're going to paskin that you're able to stop them. You're able to stop them from opening up the store at the entrance of the street. So then it's going to be fine, because whoever said that they're coming this way, maybe they're coming this way, right? And whoever says, but if it's a dead end street, in order to get to you, they had to go through the first guy. So Rav Yasaf comes and he says, you could stop him. Who does that collect? Rav Huna. Now the Bet Yosef, and this is going to be on page 16. By the way, you have it on the bottom. Look at the bottom on the English and Hebrew of that page. It says, if you read in the English, Rav Yasaf prohibits competing in a fashion that puts a competitor out of business altogether. For example, if one opens a shop at the opening of a dead-end street, potential clients will be unlikely to discover the competition located within the street, thereby making his business unviable. Okay, so that's going to be the Shita of the Mordechai in the name of Rav Yasaf. Now we're going to see the Patash, Pitchet Tshuva. The Pitchet Tshuva is on page 16. Says the Pitchet Tshuva. Look in the Bet Yosef, that there it's brought down the Katav Mordechai. We're on the top of the page, right? So it says over there, I am in Bet Yosef, Mordechai. And he brings down this entire thing, and it goes like Rav Huna, Rav Yasaf. Now he says like this, Venideh. So we are 2, 4, 6 lines down. Venideh. With the fact that he says that we're going like Rav Huna, means that we don't pass like Rav Huna Yeshua. Remember, Rav Huna says that I could stop you from doing competition, nothing to do with a dead-end street or not. In a mavui, meaning, for example, on a harding, according to Shitat Rav Huna, I could stop you from opening up another competition. That is Shitat Rav Huna. Rav Huna ben Yeshua said he argued, and he says that as long as you're from the same mavui, I'm allowed to open up a competition, as long as I'm not going to put you out of business, obviously, but I could open up a competition.
Competition will put people out of business.
No. Not always. Many times, for example, you have here stores that they're there for many, many years. Yeah, they're not going to put each other out of business.
Service stores in the
it depends what. So, for example, there will be stores that if they open up, so we gave the example here, we said like this. Right now you have the Grove. Yeah. If you open up another Grove, maybe you would put them out of business, right? So let's say you open up a bingo, right, in front of Grove. You would put them out of business, especially if you do it over here where there's CVS and there's actually parking and everything. You'll for sure put them out of business. But for example, if you're going to come and you're going to open up another restaurant, so they did it all the time. Here you have Cinecita, you have Rustico, you have Harbor Grill, you have Kosh, right? You have Fialkov's, you've got the Grove. You've got now in front of Cinecita, you've got another pizza. All those things, it doesn't mean that they're going to put you out of business. It just means that maybe they're going to lower your margin, your profit margin. But it doesn't mean that it's going to put you out of business. You're still going to be in business. But instead of you making whatever it is amount, now you're going to be making a little bit less, but that's not putting you out of business. That's why it's very, very important to know that. So Rav Yasaf, and this is what the Bet Yosef is saying. Rav Yasaf comes and he says the Bet Yosef, this Rav Yasaf that tells you that you could stop him from opening up the competition at the beginning of the street, that is going like Rav Huna, and we don't pass like Rav Huna. So since we don't pass like Rav Huna, you're allowed to open up the competition at the entrance of the street. Why? Because we don't pass like Rav Huna. We pass like Rav Huna. You're allowed to. So this is a shita of the Bet Yosef. So this is again shita Maran, and that's why Maran does not bring this down. We're going to see this. The Rama brings this down, not Maran, but according to the way that he learned Rav Yasaf, he said it's not halacha. He says you're allowed to open up. You're going to open up at the beginning of the street. Open up at the beginning of the street. What's the big deal? Yeah, let's see the next explanation though. However, though the Tur Tfus the Heinfurt with Chidusha Gamar Lach. He brings Hagal Darkei Moshe. Hagal Darkei Moshe comes from the Rama himself. Remember, the Moshe Isalis. That he says like this. He says, no. When it's said in the Mordechai, remember, the Mordechai brings Rav Yasaf. Right? They're both Rishonim. When the Mordechai brings this Rav Yasaf, the Kavanah, and he says that it's like Rav Huna, it doesn't mean that we're paskening like Rav Huna. It means that even Rav Huna bered Rav Yoshua would paskin like Rav Huna in this case. So therefore, it's going on lechule alma. It's going according to everybody. That's what he says here. Here, the gam Rav Huna b'Yeshua modeh biadina. The Kevin the Shimon Yosef b'petach, because since he's going to be at the entrance of the dead end, velo yashum adam yachol la'avol leReuven, and nobody could go to Reuven im lo yelech lifnei pitchot shel Shimon unless they're going to pass by the entrance of Shimon, right? וכן כתב מרדכי ביד ישם. And that's what's brought down in the מרדכי מפורש over there. ומשמע, so it's משמע, תדווקא מכוח זה, that because of this, פסק שם כן דזה, מקרי שפיל פסק לחיותה. In such a case, for sure it's פסק לחיותה. For sure he's going into your livelihood and he's taking it away. He's being פסק, right? He's taking away your livelihood. ולא כשמעמיד החנום בצידו, but not you're just putting it beside it. Meaning like this, if I just come and I open up a store right beside you, so I've got a store, I've got a choice. I could go to this store or the other store. But when I have a dead end, and you're at the end of the dead end, I'm not even going to bother going to you because I'm already at the beginning of the street. How many times does it happen that if you have a dead end, right? It could happen in anything. Not only it could happen in Bate Knesiot, it could happen with stores, it could happen with services, it could happen whatever it is, right? I'm looking for a pizza store, right? I'm walking down the street. Sometimes the first one, maybe it could be that I was looking for the other one, but I found one right here. I'm going to go in, I'm going to eat. Why? Because listen, it's right here, right in front. Why do I have to continue walking even for another 5 minutes if I already have it over here? So again, this is the reason why he comes and he says this is also halakha l'maaseh. And also the Knesset Gedolah also in Gautam Beit Yosef, he says, looking that the Divasaf is not going like Ravunim Yeshua, he says, Bamaram Yisrael B'Tshuva says that it is because it's Bari Ezeka. Bari Ezeka means that it's for sure going to cause damage. And the seventh Masab Binyamin comes and he says, right, right? What happens is he's going to completely put him out of business. And this is what we were talking about. Remember that if a person could come and prove that they're going to be completely put out of business, so therefore that's it. So he comes and he says, you could actually stop the other person because he's Sheni is coming and he's Masig Gvul, right? And then he's going, so everybody agrees with it, right? So he comes and he says, this is a special deen about that if you're going to buy the exclusivity of the city. Okay? Now he comes and he says this, so if you're going to look in the tshuva of the Masab Binyamin, Iowa. Yeah, he's late. Yeah, he says, not because of the Aviyasaf. He says it's only because of Sfaran and Moshe. So he says, right there's for sure going to be Bari Ezeka, which means that for sure it's going to cause a lot of different problems. Right? Right? So they're going to cause other people to stop. Aval benidon Masab Binyamin, but in the case of the Masab Binyamin, matcheu legamre, you're going to push them off completely. Vekarov lomar benidon ze gam Bet Yosef modeh sheyachol leakev, that he could stop him. Right? Vayem tshuvat Chatam Sofer. Right? Al davar bet dayanim shaya lahem parnasa me'adon uman echad. Right? Oseh umvashel, right? Umvashel tzukar liyom tov shel Pesach. Shehem ayu notnim lo echsher. So imagine you had two different dayanim. They were giving echsher. Ve'ata barav echad. So now comes another dayan, and now they wanted to open up a competing hashkacha and push away the other rabbi, the other dayan. So they wanted to find out what's the halacha. This is the Chatam Sofer speaking, and he says there, the that's in a mavui mefulash. So this is what the doctor said. We're talking about mavui mefulash. Mavui mefulash means it's an open mavui, so it's open to everyone. So therefore everyone could go in, right? So he said, "Val mavui satum," but if it's a closed mavui, it doesn't work. וכתב דחל משמע מפירוש רש"י, גבי שני דגים, דאי ויסעדה מסיים. אבל הכא מי שבא אצלך יקנה, משמע היכא שאינם באים כלל לא פוסק חיותו לגמרי כופין. רב הונא מחשב גם זה לפיסוק חיותו. He says, ולית הלכת כבתלו בפיסוק חיותו לחולשה חיותו. That means there's going to be a difference between פיסוק חיותו and חולשת חיותו. Meaning פיסוק חיותו means I'm going to cut you off of business. חולשת חיותו means I'm going to weaken your business. Right? דהרי אפשר שיבואו גם אליו לדחול. They could come to him and they're also going to be תוכן. Right? Nobody has the books. Yeah? Right? So he says, הוא פשוט, אפילו יש לזה עוד אומנות אחר. Yes, exactly. כל הכבוד. Benjamin, you're on fire. Tomer, you found yourself a חברותה.
Because I'm leaving.
כל הכבוד. וואו, הקדוש ברוך הוא has so many שליחים למקום, it's something incredible. בליין הרע, הרבה שליחים למקום, ממש, like every single time. ממש incredible. Yeah, בדיוק. מהפח אל הפח. You're just going under, that's it. And there you go. הקדוש ברוך הוא loves you so much, he's not just going to leave you to the dogs. He's already taking him. Now he wants to take you. You just got here.
Send me
Contact information. Yeah, he'll call you. Yeah. 100%. So he says like this, ופשוט, אפילו יש לזה עוד אומנות אחרת, או אפילו הוא עשיר גדול, אנו דנין על חיותה הלז דרך חיים. Here we just said an incredible chidush.
So how can they used to live in a ghetto and like they don't go out and they used to have all the stores and how they could survive?
So one more time, because again, if it's going to be as long as it's open. No, but again, if it's the whole full ghetto and it's all one ghetto, so then it would be okay. Because it's not that I've got, like, for example, over here, we've got, let's say, for example, Carlisle, or we've got Abbott, which is a dead end street. So if I'm going to open up a store one end or the other end, it's going to become a problem. Right? Why? Because there you have it. But here, it just gave you a big chidush that we just added an extra level. We never spoke about that. What happens if the guy is already rich? So, for example, I want to open up a bingo. One minute. I want to open up a bingo. Yeah, and I'm going to open up a bingo right in front of the Grove. And what it's going to happen is I'm going to put the Grove out of business, obviously. Right? So what happens? Am I allowed to do that or not? So you're going to tell me you're not allowed to do that. I'm going to say, yeah, but the guy's rich. Right? The guy's filthy rich. Not only the guy's filthy rich, he's got another, or the guy has another 10 stores. And no, forget about the same stores. He's got, I don't know what, he's got not the grocery stores. He's got a chain of Bet Avot, of Home Depot, or of exactly. So he comes and he says over here, he says, 1 minute.
Geographical, or does it have to do it or no?
Yeah, geographical. So he says, הוא פשוט, אפילו יש לזה עוד אומנות אחרת, even if you have another profession, או אפילו הוא עשיר גדול, or even if he's rich, אנו דנין על חיותה הלז דרך חיים. We're only going to pay attention to this store.
Sure.
Only to this store.
Because if you do it
Yeah.
for this store, then it becomes, you start opening a can of worms.
So he says, הוא נפסק לגמרי מכל וכול, right? And he brings a proof also, הואיל והמבוי סתום וזה יושב בראש המבוי בלחיים.
To compete with the goy?
Yes. או תינוקות שמשמיעים קול, שכל העובד ישמע קול וילך לזה, right? ולא לאחרון. So it's פסח חיותה, בזה כופים. So basically, right, what he's trying to say is something incredible. Look in the footnote. Bet Yosef assumes that the Vyasa follows the opinion of Huna, and consequently is not to be considered halacha. However, the Rama as well as other achronim, they hold that no, that causing a competitor to go out of business is prohibited according to all opinions. According to the Khatam Sofer, this is true even if the person has several other businesses or is very wealthy. So that is the maskana of this patash. Capish? Until here we're clear?
Yeah.
Very good. Now we could go back to the Shulchan Aruch. Why? Let's see the Shulchan Aruch.
Which page?
Page 13.
I would love to see what they say about the diamond district in New York. They're one on top of the other one.
What's the problem? It's not a dead end street.
No, I'm not talking about.
And they're all open. They're all open. No, but that means as long as they're all open, a kavanah, right? So therefore, since they're all open, that's a proof that nobody's putting anybody out of business. I told you there's a big difference, right? And to do with diamonds, especially in a certain diamond district, you could also argue that that's a shuk. And if it's a shuk, it's open to everybody because they come from the world to buy from there. It's not a local market for the locals. Yes, we did. Wait, we said it was mutar. That was the Gemara Mefureshet. Right? And again, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. That's like Yom HaShuk. You remember we spoke about Yom HaShuk. That's not locals. Remember, a lot of these stores, whether it's going to be a grove or a thing, they're dependent upon locals. Because if they're only going to be dependent upon the tourists, right, they're not going to survive. So they do depend also on locals. Right? So, again, you have it. You have all the halachot. Fine. It says Shulchan Aruch. We're going to read it quickly. כופין בני מבוי זה את זה, שלא להושיב ביניהם לא חייב לא ברצי ולא אחד מבעלי אומנות, היה שם מבוי אחד. So again, one more time. So basically, I could force somebody else not to come in to my vui. What is that? Who could I force? I could force them not to bring in, let's say, for example, if we're a tailor, so I could force them not to bring another tailor, not another tanner, not one of the other professions. היה שם מבוי אחד מבני מבוי. But what happens if you have the same mavui guy, that he's an uman, and they didn't make a mecha on him, right? Or shaita shemichat, so they already had a bathhouse or a chanut or a chaim, and now somebody else wants to come and open up the same thing. So he says, "Enu yecholo no, they can't stop him." Velomar lo ata poseh chayai, and you're stopping us. Fafilo yabim nevui v'cheret, right? Sorry, he says even if it's going to be from another mavui, אינם יכולים למונעו שיש ביניהם אותם מנו, because they have the same thing, which means like this. Basically, if you remember, we brought down that there's two inyanim in the Shulchan Aruch. Two inyanim in the Shulchan Aruch. First of all, the noise or traffic or whatever the say. So, for example, let's say we live in a small little shtat. Yeah, a small little tiny town. And now what happens is that we don't have there a lot of noise. And all of a sudden you want to come and you want to open up a tannery and it's like a factory. You know, you're going to make so much noise, so much traffic, it's going to be a balagan. I could stop you. But if we're going to already have one there, right? So now I can't stop you anymore. Because that means that the second that I opened up the door to one, I cannot say one is good, right? But the second one, no. So I can't stop that. I can't do that. Okay, that is what the Shulchan Aruch is saying. Now, what about though the competition? Because there's two inyanim. One of them is the traffic and the noise and everything else. And then the second one is going to be the competition. So he says also this, the fact that they're from the same mavui, I cannot stop you because you can't say, right, pasakta lechyuti. Okay? And that's what it says in the footnote. Look in the footnote. Note, the Shulchan Aruch is addressing 2 points simultaneously. One, the neighbor's rights to object to the additional noise being caused in the opening of a business in the neighborhood. And second, their obligation towards infringement upon their livelihood, which is basically competition. If a mavui, right, already has a specific kind of establishment, the Shulchan Aruch rules that you cannot object to opening of a similar establishment due to the increased noise. The Ramah disagrees, and he rules that they can object. So that's Shitat Ramah. Meaning the Ramah comes and he says, listen, I only allowed for one school, not two schools. Think of, did you guys actually realize, for example, Bay Harbor Islands has a school, but it doesn't have a mall. Okay? Bal Harbor has a mall, but they don't have a school, right? And both of them didn't have religious institutions, or at least not yet, right? Then you have Surfside, right? Has all the religious institutions, but no mall and no school. So each one has their own. So now let's say right now I go to Bay Harbor Islands, and I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to open up a new school. So they're going to tell me, no, it's already in one school. You already have an entire school zone. They're going to say, right, look how much traffic, look how much this, look how much that. It's always the worst thing in the world getting by there, right? They started putting cameras, so you could stop them. Says Maran, I'm sorry, the fact that you already let one school in, you can't say no to a second one. The Ramah says you could, right? If right now I want to open up another mall in Bal Harbor, so you're going to tell me, listen, you know what traffic that causes the Bal Harbor shops? But I'm going to tell you, listen, the second you have one open, you can't stop me. So right in front of the street, I'm going to open up a huge mall. You can't stop me. That's Maran. According to the Ramah, you could. Right? Or, for example, here in Surfside, you continue going. That is the concept that the second you have one open, you cannot stop because of the noise or because of the traffic or because of all the other things, something else. Okay? Now, he does say also regarding competition, Shulchan Aruch rules like the Gemara cited above that any city resident or taxpayer that may compete anywhere in the city, the Ramah disagrees on one specific point, namely the residents of a specific mavui can prevent a non-resident taxpayer from competing in their mavui. So basically, according to Maran, the second you pay taxes in the city, you could open up anywhere in the city, and there's no dinim anymore of competition. Again, we're not talking about that you're going to put somebody completely out of business, but we're talking about competition. However, though, according to the Ramah, I could stop you from coming from my mavui because the fact that you pay taxes in Miami doesn't mean that you're allowed on Surfside, or it doesn't mean that you're allowed in Bay Harbor Islands, or it doesn't mean so there I could stop you. That is going to be another machlok between the Maran and the Ramah. We'll continue obviously tomorrow, right, with these halachot, obviously.